I'll let you. I'm gonna. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to special meeting on Tuesday, September the 9th. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Commissioner Markert.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Long.
Here.
Commissioner Casale is absent. Deputy Vice Mayor Burns.
Here.
Mayor Kearney.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be turning this over to the city manager to kind of give us the intro for today's meeting. And then we are going to be having public comment. For purposes of public comment today, we're going to, because there's going to be more than one speaking, and in special meetings you are limited in the time you can speak. We only have like 30 minutes allocated. So I'm going to be asking that everybody keep their remarks to 2 minutes, because that will allow more people to speak, and so that I don't want to cut anyone out. So by doing it that way, I think we'll be able to get everyone to speak. So with that, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are gathered this evening for purposes of discussion regarding the Pride streetscape, given the recent direction from the Florida Department of Transportation that the city of Delray Beach comes into compliance. However, most urgently, the experiences overnight that led us to be here this particular evening, notably the painting that occurred by representatives of the Florida Department of Transportation, their contractors, really on a covert basis. So in response to that, elected officials contacted me individually to express an opportunity to gather this evening to discuss the matter at hand, as well as to consider thoughts to move forward. Of course, there's no formal staff presentation. However, I will do my best after public engagement, as well as giving the city commissioners an opportunity to offer their dialogue with respect to the matter, to offer any specific intelligence that I've been able to assemble literally in the last few minutes or so. So I will offer background and dialogue to that effect. And in addition to that, Commissioner Julie Casale sends her regrets for not being able to join us this evening. So I thought I'd pass that along as well. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you at this particular point in time, as well as your colleagues. Meanwhile, I'll be prepared to chime in as time progresses.
Great. I look forward to those updates that just came recently. So we're going to open this meeting up to the public. Each member of the public, if you wish to speak on this matter, you will have 2 minutes. Please come to the lectern, give your name and home address for the record. And as I say, you'll each have 2 minutes. And now's the time for public comment. There is a sign-in. Do we have a sign-in sheet as well? Yes. To the extent that
yes, sir,
please make sure you put all the relevant detail into the sign-in sheet. That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're on.
Okay. Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Well, you could be shorter and that would help. But I can't do anything about that.
That's the main reason why I asked.
You may have to stoop, and we'll understand you're not bowing to us. You're just stooping to speak into the microphone.
Thank you. Well, thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mayor. Oh, Connor Corzine, 5465 Grande Palm Circle, Delray Beach. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for fighting, continuing this fight against the tyrannical state and federal government. I would make this very quickly. I'm a native South Floridian. I'm from Boca Raton. I moved to Delray when I was 5 years old, when my mom was searching for a safe, affordable, nice community in Palm Beach County after my parents got divorced. And that's what I'm here to just make sure it continues to be that way. I was so proud of my city to see the crosswalk happen, be established a few years ago, and even more proud, honestly, this year to see everybody fight for it. And I know each of you have had your political disagreements, I'm sure, on this board, but I just wanted to thank each of you for standing together, and the city attorney for fighting this against the state right now and FDOT. And basically, I know that Delray has been, as it says up there, a 3-time All-American city. I think this fight really embodies that, and that you're fighting for our First Amendment rights to be a community that expresses our values of culture, inclusion, acceptance, and art. Because at the end of the day, this is just art, street art. It's not very unheard of. That's all I wanted to say, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. My name is Julie Seaver, and I am not a resident of Delray Beach, but I am a member and an advocate of the LGBTQ community and the executive director for Compass Community Center in Lake Worth.
So need an address for the record, where just give us an address.
My address is 930 North Federal Highway, Lake Worth, 33460.
Okay.
I too not only love this city, but the people in it. And I was so excited to be at the grand opening and the ribbon cutting of that crosswalk. I did not speak at the last commission meeting, but I want to commend all of the commissioners and the city manager for putting up for this fight for all of the residents in Delray Beach. We urge the city to continue to take this stand against the state government and the Florida Department of Transportation. Such an egregious act. I am just disgusted by looking at what they did to our city. And as we move forward, we want you to know that we support you in this fight, and we appreciate the efforts that you have done so far. Not only is the entire state of Florida, but the entire country is watching to see what the city of Delray Beach is going to do against its own state government. And we are with you to uphold the city's right to self-determination, to govern ourselves and create a future where everyone can thrive. A famous quote that I'd like to end with from a Greek poet who I cannot pronounce his name, but they tried to bury us, but they forgot that we were seeds. Thank you for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioners, distinguished guests. My name is Janet Cohen. I live at 885 Flanders S in West Delray Beach. I own a home here. I want to begin by thanking you for the stand that you've taken. It is not an easy stand to take when you're standing as an advocate against people that are so hated by a state government. There are many things that I could say, but the bottom line about all of it is that this is a campaign against art. You can call it a campaign against gay, lesbian, bi, trans people, but it is a campaign against art. It has nothing to do with public safety. You're doing the right thing. I urge you to continue doing the right thing because art draws tourism. Granted, we're talking about a street crosswalk over there, but tourism dollars matter when it comes to city government. I'm a taxpayer. I happen to like art. I have art all over my home. I even have a couple of bumper stickers on my car. Art sells. Every city needs money. Tourism sells. Now, just a couple of comments here. The governor might think that if he crossed the street where the crosswalk is, he might catch the gay bug. His children, who are school-aged, impressionable children, may one day come home and say, either his son or his daughters, may come home and say, hey, Dad, Mom, I'm born in the wrong gender body. I might be trans, I don't know what's going on, and they're gonna be going to schools that are not allowed to say the word gay. They're not allowed to say the word trans. Give me a break. This is a campaign about hatred. It is not a campaign about doing what's best for the state of Florida. It's a campaign to get MAGA dollars. Now, I read a quote on biography.com that I want to share with you, and I'll conclude with that. Okay? Well, Ron DeSantis was bragging about all he's doing for tourism. Let's not forget that he cost the state of Florida 2,000 jobs when he started the fight with Disney, and that cost millions of taxpayer dollars. Let's just talk about money, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
I'm complete for now.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for convening this meeting. My name is Joe Saunders, and I'm here representing Equality Florida, Florida's largest LGBTQ civil rights organization. And on behalf of our 1,000...
Address, please, for the record.
Oh, sorry. It's 1439 West Avenue in Miami Beach, Florida.
Thank you.
On behalf of our 1,084 supporters who are residents of Delray Beach, some of whom are here in the room tonight, I want to thank you for calling this meeting and for your leadership. But let's be clear about why we're all here. Governor DeSantis is threatening to withhold millions in taxpayer-funded projects from cities, exploiting our vulnerability in the aftermath of storms, threatening to make traffic worse, and threatening projects that help all of us if you don't comply to his bigoted attacks on LGBTQ communities and visibility. There's a word for that: extortion. It's an abuse of power, and it's part of a broader effort to silence local democracy. He's testing whether city councils and commissions and mayors can be reduced to window dressing, overridden, or pressured whenever he chooses. You can serve your duty as a duly elected official as long as you do or don't do what he wants. If Governor DeSantis can threaten city leaders with our own tax dollars, he can effectively take away our right to choose local representation. When the officials we elect, the ones who live closest to us and understand our communities, can just be rolled over anytime the governor feels like it, that is not democracy. It's a Tallahassee takeover of cities. Your LGBTQ residents, but really all your residents, they need you. They need you to push back. They need you to fight back right now. Fight for local control and for local democracy. Cities have a statutory right to question and challenge unfair or illegal directives from the state. To do that in front of an administrative judge, a real judge, or even in a state or a federal court. Let's also be clear, there is no new law or rule from the governor that has authorized his action related to this crosswalk. Challenge this process and its abuses with a petition in the Division of Administrative Hearings, like other cities. Thank you for this meeting, thank you for convening, and thank you for your work today.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Nicholas Capola, 3930 Lowson Boulevard, 561-562-5071. I am here as a resident.
I didn't ask for phone number, but thanks so much for that.
I'm used to code enforcement. You have to give your phone number. And
Oh,
information.
gotcha, okay.
But
Well,
I'm here
thank
as
you for,
I'm simply here to thank you all. I know it's not easy. I can only imagine the conversations and how difficult. I mean, going to Orlando to fight this. As everybody say, I think it's more gratitude right now. But folks are watching. They're really watching how this is playing out, and I think the light is shining on you guys. That doesn't shine well on the governor, without a doubt. It's disrespectful. And I know what we're seeing here right now, this is Delray Beach. And I'm happy to stay here, and you're never going to get rid of me. So thank you.
thank you, Mr. Coppola.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I may need an extra 30 seconds. I have timed my speech. But my name is Rand Hawk. I am president and founder of the Palm Beach County Human Rights Council. I live at 400 North Flagler Drive in West Palm Beach. Reuben Askew must be rolling over in his grave. For those of you who are unfamiliar with him, he served as Florida's governor in the 1970s. He helped restore public confidence in government at a time when Florida was grappling with corruption, scandals, and political mistrust. His most enduring legacy is Florida's Government in the Sunshine Laws, which became a model for transparency across the nation. Like you, Askew firmly believed that democracy can only thrive when citizens have direct access to the workings of government. Under his leadership, Florida passed some of the strongest open government laws in the nation. By mandating openness, these laws curtailed the secret negotiations that had long characterized decision-making in government. His work earned Florida national recognition as a leader in government accountability. To this day, the phrase "government in the sunshine" is synonymous with Florida's open government laws, which, if followed, are among the most comprehensive in the nation. Askew demonstrated that principled leadership and transparency could strengthen democracy, and his sunshine reforms should serve as a foundation for public trust in Florida government. Unfortunately, Tallahassee's handling of your efforts to protect home rule and your right to make decisions about what is best for the city of Delray Beach has been a disaster. You have been denied the right to an unbiased hearing. You have been denied due process to address the adverse decision of the hearing office. You have been denied the right to seek an injunction to protect the city-owned property. 30 seconds if I may. All because the governor does not like queer art in public places. PBC-HRC is asking you to continue the legal action to protect home rule in the Pride intersection. We're also respectfully asking you to formally request the state attorney Alexia Cox, to investigate whether FDOT has committed any crime against the city by defacing public property, including but not limited to the criminal mischief causing damage in excess of $1,000. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That it? Is there any more public comment before we close the public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Turn it over to the commission. Mr. Moore, did you have something additional you wanted to say? Or?
I yield at this time. This is your opportunity to dialogue, and I'll respond accordingly.
Okay, Mr. Long.
You know, I didn't bring a speech this time. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
We can play your last one.
Yeah, you could. We just
we got
we
it on
play the
tape
greatest
somewhere.
hits. Just pick some parts out of it. So let's talk about safety for a minute. That's what this is all about, right? Isn't that the pretext for why we have now gotten this shabby chic version of our intersection up here? So if you look at the one on the left, that's one we installed in 2021. We have data from our police department that states 4 years leading up to the installation of that intersection, from 2017 to 2021, we had 15 accidents in that intersection. Then from 2021 till now, we had 2 accidents in that intersection. That means safety improved eightfold in the last 4 years since the installation of that intersection. Now, if you look at this version of it, the one on the right, I don't think anyone could say that's a safer condition, or that whoever put that down in the rain, knowing that it wasn't going to stick, had any interest in safety while they were doing it. So I think we can throw that argument out the window, especially since we were never afforded the opportunity to have an evidence-based hearing that was unbiased, where we could actually present our safety data. In fact, that's all we have been asking for up here, is due process. If this is about safety, let's talk about safety. Let's talk about data. I'm an engineer. Let's talk about data. I love data. That's what we should be talking about here, and that's what we need to be pushing. So what we have to handle first is, what are we going to do about this intersection now? They came in last night, ironically, and created an unsafe condition, right? The crux of their argument was that these are traffic control devices and we'd somehow obscured them. Do those look obscured on the left, where they're the gray stop bars? Those look even remotely obscured? Not to me. They are now, because they have black paint tracked across them. So the FDOT came in last night without a work permit into our city streets that we own and maintain, and created a liability in an unsafe condition that we now have to deal with. We are having an emergency meeting tonight to clean up their mess, to clean up their trespass and destruction of property within our city. That's what we're doing here tonight. So, as a commission, if we're not going to protect the safety of our city-owned, city-maintained streets, then what is it? That's our core function, I would think, right? To keep our streets safe. So that's all I want to do. I want to keep our streets safe. So my recommendation would be that we pressure wash these as soon as possible. That's the most expedient way to get this black, I guess it's paint, off of it. So we can get into that, but I think we need to remove whatever risk we have to this as soon as possible. And I think hydro washing it would be the quickest way, the most expedient way, and the least costly way to return our crosswalk to a safe condition, which is our responsibility because these are, again, our streets. So on top of that, I would like to see us join the effort of Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale and seek the petition that they are seeking. And I'll defer to Lynn to explain better what that actually means. It's not an appeal. It's not a lawsuit. It's simply challenging the rule that they think it's challenging the fact that they did not follow the rulemaking process, which they did not. It was a memo that they put out, which they've used as the crux to try and enforce whatever this is. So we're simply questioning that and want the chance to present our evidence and data and have a real chance in front of a real administrative judge, not someone who's been compromised and biased, which is what we had, to have a real hearing. That's all we've ever asked for, and we haven't gotten it yet. So I think the most expedient way to get to that would be to join that petition effort with the DOAH. Could you help me articulate better what that means?
You actually did a very nice job.
Thank you.
So actually, the petition has been joined by the city of Fort Lauderdale. They filed their petition yesterday using the same counsel that the city has used, Howard Dubasar. And what the petition does is it challenges the validity of the Memorandum 25-01. So Memorandum 25-01 is essentially what's prohibiting all the street art and pavement markings. When FDOT creates rules, there's a process to be followed. And they have rulemaking authority, but Florida statute outlines that. And that entails, public comment, the same way that the city commission, when we are going to adopt an ordinance, we engage in charrettes, we have workshops, we engage the public to get their feedback, and then you enter into your rulemaking. FDOT is required to do something very similar. The argument is that Memorandum-2501 didn't follow that. So it's essentially not just a memorandum, it's a natural rule that was unadopted. And an unadopted rule still has to follow the same mechanisms and procedures for adoption, but it's just considered unadopted. So what they're arguing is that the notice that the city received back on August 15th, Terrence?
Correct.
And the memorandum are both FDOT exercising its rulemaking authority without following the procedures outlined in Florida statute. And like I said, City of Miami Beach has filed theirs. The City of Fort Lauderdale filed theirs yesterday. An administrative law judge was actually appointed to the Fort Lauderdale case. So if you recall, last week when Terrence and I and Missy went to Orlando, the hearing officer, the judge in the matter, was an employee of FDOT. And so right off the bat, you already feel, and the mayor knows this, from a due process standpoint, when you're going against FDOT, an employee of FDOT is the one hearing the case, you already feel like it's a little bit unfair. This proceeding, this petition challenging the validity of the unadopted rules, is actually before an administrative law judge. So it's an actual judge who's appointed by the state of Florida, and they're engaged in these types of proceedings. They handle DOA hearings, like the vice mayor just alluded to, all types. And so this has already been assigned that judge. If we joined it, we would just follow suit with Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach.
Thank you, Lynn. I yield to my colleagues at this time.
Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. I didn't write a speech, but I do have something I wanted to say. First of all, I want to thank those of you that came out to speak on your behalf, and all of the appreciation. It's really appreciated. But I was deeply saddened by the state coming in the middle of the night to remove the Pride crosswalk, not even 24 hours after we received a denial. That's just not, that's not right. And again, this disregards the principles of home rule and our right for our community to decide how we honor and respect our values. So, Delray has always been and will remain a safe, welcoming, and inclusive city, which is why I love my city, where everybody belongs, no matter what your skin color, the language you speak, who you love, who you believe in, or who you vote for. The spirit of acceptance is what makes Delray Beach. And, as everyone has said, we do have the entire country watching. So, my thought is that, we just really need to think about what our next moves are, and I'm going to be leaning heavily on the legal advice. I am not an attorney, and some of this legal stuff, jargon is very not clear. However, I'm here to support my colleagues and whatever you think is best for the city and our residents. Whatever decision we make, we still have to make sure that we are being in the best interest of all of our residents of the city of Delray. We are managing funds, how much is this costing? We're already short on funds, so we have a lot to think about and consider before we make a decision. But I am a staunch believer in due process and receiving what we need to receive as to be fair. So the recommendations of our city manager, our city attorney, and as far as what to do next, I would like to hear from administration, you know, what do we do? Because that definitely is not indicative of safety. And so the conversation around this wasn't safe just throws that right out of the window, because that definitely is not safe. So I'm just waiting to hear what recommendations are being made by our city manager and our city attorney.
So if we did join in this litigation, we would be able to stay enforcement of the order that was issued on Friday. You know, I can give you the legal options. You know,
Right.
This is what's available to you. We have an appeal available to us. We can appeal the final order that was issued last Friday, or on September 8th, basically directing us to remove the Pride streetscape. So right now, the only legal options viable are the appeal of the order or joining in this litigation with Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale. As I've told some of you today, you know, my view is very myopic, right? I look at really just the legal avenues. You are tasked with those bigger overarching issues that affect the entire community. And those are those business decisions that we always talk about. So I can't make those for you. All I can tell you is legally what can happen. If we move forward with the petition or the appeal, we would seek a stay of the enforcement of the orders, which would mean that for the time being, the crosswalk would be able to stay. Litigation's expensive. It can be prolonged. This type of litigation, if we went the route with Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale, that one's a little bit more expedient because it's before an administrative judge. If we actually appeal the September 8th order, I can tell you right now, that will be prolonged. Litigation, as you know, you've seen some of the cases that I bring before you. We have some from 2019, right? So that can take a long time, and that's when it starts getting costly. And at that point, that's when we have to make a business decision. A lot of times even with our litigation, when I bring settlement offers to you, sometimes you do have to make that business decision. Is it worth the litigation, or is it just easier to have everybody walk away where nobody's going to be happy but the litigation's over? So, you know, I just want to be very clear. These two orders will stay the enforcement. These two petitions will stay the enforcement of the action. But again, and Terrence can probably speak to the business decision aspect of this, you know, you still have to make that other decision that I can't make for you.
Okay, thank you.
You want to weigh in now, or you want to weigh in later? I'll let Mr. Marcus speak. Yep.
Thank you. A few things. I went down and visited the site today for a couple of hours this afternoon. If you haven't been down there, that picture says it all. It's dirty, it's messy, it's dangerous. I mean, you start to follow the footprints of the cars in front of you. You don't know if they're going in the right direction. It's slippery. There was glass on the road on the northwest corner, so there have been some hits there that may or may not have been reported, but there was glass there. Chief Hunter, there was evidence. It's not without risk. I'm worried about cars who drive through there a lot. There was confusion with pedestrians down there that I witnessed today. Everybody's kind of looking at it. Nobody's kind of fully paying attention the way they should be. Continues to scare me. I worry about the cars that drove through. Did that paint stick to their cars? Son of a car dealer, I'm telling you, probably we're going to hear from people who have black paint on their cars that are going to want help. Get ready. We didn't do it, but get ready. I was asked by a reporter what I thought of what I was seeing. I didn't even have a word. The only thing I could utter was, ugh. You know, ugh. This just wasn't what we wanted. So she asked me, how did we get here? And I had to be honest with her, like, I don't know. I mean, we were moving in compliance. We were being responsive. You know, we hadn't stepped out of line. Yeah, we may have had a differing point of view from Tallahassee, but we weren't overstepping our bounds, I didn't think, in my humble opinion. So I don't know how we exactly got here. I will tell all of you, I sent a letter to Governor DeSantis last week asking for a meeting. I've yet to receive a response. I think I'm a little bit uniquely qualified. As most of you know, I have about 18 months of government experience. I have 45 years of corporate experience. I've held CEO and CMO roles with companies like Nielsen and Office Depot. I've negotiated really big contracts. I feel really good that if I could get an audience with Governor DeSantis, maybe we could work things out. That's sort of how we've always done things in my country. And I'd like to have a chance to do that, so I hope he takes me up on that. But I do know there'll be a healthy solution. We're going to find one. Don't give up out there. I mean, we're in a fight, but we're all Americans. We're all Floridians. We have a little difference of opinion here, but we're going to get through it. And I think with some good leadership, we can. I'll yield at this point. I think Ms. Jelen did a great job of outlining some of our options, and obviously we're going to have to kick those around today and try to come up with the one that yields the best outcome for all. So thank you for that.
Okay. I woke up emailed at 5:30 this morning with pictures of what was going on in the interchange, live streaming. Fortunately, I was just getting awake anyway, so the day started off in the usual non-controversial way in Delray Beach. So, I started researching stuff. I read both orders, which, by the way, my issue started with, we received the order, our attorneys actually received the order at around 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And so typically, and I guess we're all notified as a commission sometime around 9 o'clock, give or take. And typically when you're given an order, you are allowed some time to come into compliance. I mean, that's just normally the way it works in law. And so when I heard that it had been blackened over before I read everything, I first thought, we didn't authorize that. And I was blaming poor Terrence, and he was not even probably awake yet. And I was saying, I can't believe he went ahead and did that.
I was actually awake.
Oh, good. Well, I should have called you to commiserate. But and then I read it and it was the FDOT. And I started grappling with the whole rights and of each, what everybody is trying to bring to the table here. And one of the speakers, the public comment articulated about going against the state government. Going against the state government is very easy for people that don't have to pay for it to say. But I have to sit back and say, well, if we go against the state government, and you're saying, do I want to test this governor? I don't really think so. I think he's proven that, you don't test him so much, and to risk, for example, state monies coming in, which it's all fine to say we can stand on. When I first started in banking, one of the things you would tell borrowers that they can stand on principal, PLE, or principal, PAL. And sometimes when you stand on principal, it costs you principal. But in this particular case, it's the taxpayers that are going to be paying for it. Not going to be me. I feel very differently when I'm spending the money to fight for something, or I'm trying to spend somebody else's money to fight for it. And another comment was talking about, well, this is a campaign against art. I wish I could tell you that it's not just these types of art that's being impacted. There's also other art that the state is trying to do. So it's not just this art. So we can argue whether or not that's a good or a bad idea. I happen to think art is a good idea, but we're going to fall back on whether or not, and I've looked at the lawsuit that Miami did. I didn't look at the Fort Lauderdale joining, but I'm assuming it's the same case. And they're challenging rulemaking authority, which at best is a very iffy prospect. And I think council will acknowledge that when you are trying to go against a rulemaking process that a state has, or even the federal government has, the process to overturn that rule is very difficult and often very expensive. So, I read it and I'm not so sure. They articulated some arguments, which is a great thing about lawyers. You can have two sides, and there are two sides, and I am a lawyer and I'm seeing both sides, but I don't know that it's worth when we have come forth with this when we first proposed this. We said, okay, we will exhaust our administrative remedies. Okay, so we went through a process. We received a result that we're now all questioning. And then, so we'll go to administrative judge, and we're not going to like that answer because I don't believe we'll prevail. Because I do believe that the rulemaking process, is incomplete, but depending on the rule, the state does have the right to mandate roads, and each time you accept money from the Florida Department of Transportation, I would love to tell you it doesn't come without conditions. It does. One of those conditions is that the city will have adopted within its own code of ordinances the standards by which the FDOT manages all its roads. And whether or not it's a public road, which is a different group of things, but we've still adopted the FDOT manual in terms of how all our roads are going to look. And anybody that has applied for a zoning application here in Delray Beach will know that part of what our zoning people will do, they'll say, well, you know, the FDOT requires this, this, and this. And that's a fact. So we are required, notwithstanding whether it's a state road, federal road, or whatever road, to abide by the FDOT manual, which provides, in relevant part, that the rules that are promulgated by the FDOT need to be followed by the municipality. Okay. So we don't like the rule, agreed, and I certainly don't like the method that they came in surreptitiously, and not even giving us 24 hours, not even giving us 12 hours to comply. When you think about it, as I said, I was woken up at 5:30, and which means it was a fait accompli by then, and we were only received notification 5, so we didn't even have 12 hours to comply before the state came in and did. As an aside, that's a terrible painting job to start with. I'm not sure it's real paint, it's not water paint, because I mean, it certainly fell apart real fast, but that's just a separate matter. But I certainly think the city should have been afforded the opportunity to come into compliance, because when we went forth with to exhaust our administrative remedies, we said, we're gonna wait to see what we hear, and if we don't prevail, we'll come into compliance. Okay, so we didn't prevail. So now we're arguing whether or not the process of not prevailing was correct. And then, I mean, the lawsuit is going to be interesting. And I mean, I will tell you that Key West, which is also part of the same thing that we went up to, has decided not to pursue this. They had an extensive analysis that they did, and they concluded that as a business decision, they were not going to risk the state dollars and the cost of doing something where they ultimately were not going to prevail. And as lawyers, even when the city is involved in lawsuits, you know, where someone will trip and fall, we find that it's sometimes just cheaper to pay them off and to not go through the litigation process, because I have to look at what all the citizens want. And it's very easy to say we could risk state money, but then if we don't get the state money, I either get to raise taxes to everybody, we can go up to 8 mills or 9 mills and just do that because we want to fight on a particular issue, which we're ultimately going to, in my opinion, lose, because I do believe they have the rulemaking, they have the rulemaking right. I mean, I know they question some of the issues, but the reality is they could solve that issue with really quickly internally. So I don't know that ultimately will prevail at any level. So and as hard as it is for me to say this, we said what we would do is we would do this, and then if we didn't do it, we would come into compliance. But we also gave the additional part of that conversation was, okay, if we can't have this, we can do something else. I'm very in favor of doing something else. I'm in favor of trying to figure out a way where we can somehow protect the spirit of the interchange in some other fashion without upsetting the state and losing money from the state. Because at the end of the day, that's not going to be worth it. I don't want to slow up any of our capital improvement projects. I don't want to I want to be in compliance with the rules. You know, I couldn't fight the statute. Although when SB 180 came out about the limiting what we can do with our own zoning laws, we have joined a lawsuit because it was a law. But this is a rulemaking. This is rulemaking, which they, by everything that I've read, they are entitled to do. This is part of what they do. Now, if other groups want to pay for fighting their ability to do it, that's fine. I just don't want the taxpayers of Delray to pay for it, because I don't think it's ultimately a winning case. And I say that because if I am committed to finding another mechanism to achieve what this achieved, and as I said, we talked about it. There are other things that maybe we could do that won't upset the state, which will continue our ability to get state funding, and try to find I always talk about Plan B, but try to talk about Plan B, which is, okay, it didn't work here, but where can we make, what can we do to make the same kind of spirit of what the art is trying to portray in some other fashion in Delray Beach. So my view is I don't want to risk state dollars. I think that it's very easy to say let's challenge the state, and I think that we're dealing with a state legislature at the moment who is, and I don't know what I think it's shared by many people, is very different from state legislatures I'm used to dealing with in the past, particularly during the time of Ruben Askew. So I am reluctant to go any further in spending taxpayer money and further antagonizing revenue sources for the city when I think we can achieve the same kind of demonstration, so to speak, that this interchange had in some other fashion in the city. I think that's all I have to say.
Can I respond to a couple of those comments real quick? I'll keep it real quick, because we keep talking about this in terms of business decisions, but this isn't a business. This is a government. This is a city government. We weren't hired, we were elected. We were elected to represent and protect this government. So to capitulate after someone comes in and does this to our streets, I think that does damage too, right? It's not just let's do a pivot, which, I appreciate the thought, Mayor, and I think you make some great points, and I think we should consider other places to display similar artwork to still as a sort of compensatory gesture, right? But what message does it send whenever the state government rolls out some edict? By the way, there was no new law passed. When this was put in, when they were put in all over the state, they were compliant with the FDOT. Then all of a sudden, the FDOT decided to reinterpret their own rules, and by extension, our rules. So they could really do that with just about anything. And if the way we handle it is to simply duck our heads because we're afraid of the state and we let the state extort us, where does that end? At what point does the state decide we don't need to have city commissions anymore? I think we're getting close to that. They're already talking about getting rid of property taxes. They're talking about getting rid of our CRA.
Well, I don't think they're going to get rid of our city commissions but
it's the point is it's a slippery slope,
save
right?
The taxpayers $2 a month in
So what else are they going to come after? If they come after our menorah, are we going to say, we don't want to upset the state?
Respectfully, I understand it's not a business, but when I use that analogy, it's a business decision, because if I do something that is going to cost the taxpayers money, when I have another alternative, which is to provide another outlet, that's what I'm talking about.
What precedent does it set, is my point.
I'm serious about it. And look, I don't, as I preface my remarks by saying I am not happy with the way they did it. I think it was, we should rightfully protest the way they did it and go through that procedure, because I think coming in under the cover of night to do something when we didn't even give us, because I think under the rules, even in Florida, we had the right we were given an order.
Right.
And we were saying you have to comply, but it was after business hours we got the order. It wasn't even before business hours started the next day before it was taken out of our hands.
It was done in bad faith. And the last point I'll make here, Mayor, is when we agreed, all of us, to exhaust our administrative options, that was with the expectation that we would get some semblance of due process, which we have not gotten. That we'd have some good faith sort of hearing where we could actually present evidence and be heard. We haven't gotten that yet.
Let's go back to the letter itself, which talked about you're allowed to have a hearing, which is what it said. We whatever, but they said, but you cannot include in your hearing that we don't have the right to do this. It was something along those lines. What did they essentially said?
They told us that we were only entitled to an informal hearing, so we weren't allowed to present any evidence or witnesses or testimony to support that it is a safe area. And they indicated that we couldn't even ask for a variance, which Florida statute allows you to, if you have good cause, you can ask for a variance.
By Florida law, we are afforded to a fair due process here. And so we are still within the realm of Florida law in seeking fair due process. And frankly, if going the petition route, which our legal counsel has said is the expedient route, we are cost sharing with several other cities. That's going to be a de minimis amount to taxpayers that at least allows us to say, win, lose, or draw, that we have had at least an opportunity to have a fair evidence-based hearing in front of an administrative judge instead of this sham that we went through a week ago.
I understand your position, but as I said, I have to look at the
cart's out of the barn. There's already a target on our back. Going through one additional
Right, well,
process to have a fair hearing isn't going to change the outcome of what the governor decides to do.
You don't try to resuscitate a patient, in order to try to resuscitate a patient when you're attending their funeral either. So, I mean, you just, at some
We
point,
have to show that we care about home rule here, that we are going to fight to make sure that we get due process. We have to show that. That is our job.
That's
what we were elected to do here.
I think that we are also elected to be guardians of taxpayer dollars.
Ladies and gentlemen,
if
we can do both.
If we can, the way you do that, the way you do both is to allow the state to continue to fund the city with the various things that it's going to fund the cities and find another way to achieve the same result, the same, as you phrased
the
it,
governor
but
made the same threat regarding mask mandates at the school district, and they didn't fold. They didn't lose funding. He makes these threats all the time. He's a bully. We're supposed to be here to protect our residents from bullies.
And I'm here to protect our residents from bullies too. And the way to do that is to ensure that this bully that I can get the stuff that I need to get from that bully, but
until he decides he has another reason not to give us funding. We're supposed to bend to the political whims of the government. We can't predict what they're going to do.
I'm saying let's find another mechanism so that we can ensure that this continued funding, because I don't want to put projects aside, and whether we want to acknowledge this or not acknowledge this, their manual is part of our land development regulations, and it is a condition for us getting all the money that we're getting from the state for purposes of road work and things such as that. So we can say, well, we can do that, and we can say, well, he's not going to do this. I really wish I had that confidence that, and I'm not happy about that, by the way, but I'm not positive that he's not going to do that. And so if I can solve the problem of making sure I can still get the money from the state, but still address the important issue of making sure that we have the purpose of the artwork displayed in Delray in such a fashion so that it's meaningful.
What about the purpose of home rule? We're capitulating on that one. That's what we got elected on.
You talk about the horse being out of the barn on that. I mean, we've had a year and a half worth of the horse being out of the barn on that.
Exactly, and we fight home rule issues all the time, and we're not worried about the governor taking away our tax money, right? It's a calculated risk because it's worth it for our residents.
We file suits against legislation that is passed and adopted by the legislature.
So that's a semantical difference to what we're proposing here today.
Well,
ladies and gentlemen,
not really, because because when you lose your zoning right, there's no alternative. If they lost this, this right is we protect it, we want to protect the source this way, and we have another way to solve the problem. I can't solve the zoning problem. I can't solve where they can take away my industrial property.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think how is moving this to another area solving the problem? To me, that's at best
I understand.
A gesture. We're not solving the problem of someone coming in here and doing this to our streets. Doesn't solve that problem.
I understand. Look,
doesn't solve the disrespect to our community.
I am not suggesting this is an easy decision for anybody.
I wouldn't suggest that either.
So which is why I'm so keen on making sure that if depending on how this goes, that if it is decided that we're not going to join this petition and do that we have an agreement that we're going to figure out something else to do, because I think it's an important issue, and I'll fight for that issue. I just don't want to lose the state funds in the process. So it's a real simple equation for me. And you may say it's not a business, but if I'm starting to delay my roadwork projects, or I've got to raise my mills to 8 to pay for something because I did something to cause those funds not to come in. That's why I'm saying it's so critical that we recognize Plan B, as I called it. And I don't want to discount it, because if you discount it, and you fight for the one thing, then you come back and say, well, now I want Plan B. And I say, well, we had the chance.
I think Plan B is valid. I just don't think we're there yet, because we have not had due process on this front yet.
You've raised your hand 3 times, so I will acknowledge it. All the students in the class.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And again, my interest was to give the elected officials an opportunity to dialogue and debate considering the matter at hand. However, before offering the specific update that I experienced shortly before the meeting began, I need to take us back to Tuesday, August 19, 2025, 3 weeks ago today, because we had an opportunity to discuss a little bit the August 15th order coming from the Florida Department of Transportation regarding compliance and doing what we can to achieve, etc. So during the City Commission meeting of August 19th, direction was in fact offered to exhaust the informal administrative hearing that was made available to the city, resulting in the aforementioned visit to Orlando, Florida 1 week ago today. And of course, we did what we could. Financial resources were allocated for outside legal counsel to help us engage that particular process. Before September 2nd and during the August 19th City Commission meeting, myself, along with others, were able to talk a little bit about the opportunity or remedy to achieve compliance based on information having been made available at that time. And the remedy, if you will, was the application of a sandblasting practice to help us achieve the expectations regarding compliance. So the direction for the Office of the City Manager, formally offered by the City Commission, a la this experience, was to exhaust the administrative hearing process, and in the event that the City of Delray Beach was not successful in that regard for whatever reason, was to proceed with achieving some sense of compliance. And we talked openly about the application of sandblasting to get to that place, and thus identifying external contractual services to help make that happen, of which I would be able to proceed administratively. August 19th, direction being to proceed with the administrative hearing process. September 2nd, we stayed that opportunity because that was in fact the direction of the commission, and I believe that was the unanimous direction of the commission at that particular point in time. So of course, during the September 2nd engagement, we were given until Friday, September 5th to submit ancillary responses to accompany the hearing outcome, of Tuesday, September 2nd. So of course, we received the notification or final order, if you will, from the state of Florida last evening, as everybody acknowledges. And in preparation of that possibility, the city of Delray Beach was in fact prepared to proceed with the sandblasting application. So the sandblasting application is a tried and true approach, clean way to achieve the environment that was expected of us. I operated this way, ladies and gentlemen, because that was the clear and definitive direction as offered by the City Commission during the August 19th meeting. So in response to that effect, we have made ourselves available to proceed with a sandblasting opportunity this week. And interestingly enough, pardon me, I'm choking. Thank you. So, well, perhaps. Forgive me, ladies and gentlemen.
If you drank, I'd have a whiskey for you, but I know.
No. You know I'm a natural man, so. In any event, we have prepared ourselves accordingly, and again, I emphasize it was based on direction having been initiated during the August 19th engagement. It was. And interestingly enough, in proceeding in that regard, and many of us were very surprised and shocked of the experiences overnight leading until today, September 9th. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So in response to that, we were looking for answers. What are our remedies? I drove over there early this morning. Carmen Kearney, Mr. Mayor, you were teasing me about the time in which I get up. I rise early. Once I'm up, I'm ready to go. So one of the first orders of business arriving here at City Hall this morning, a little bit after 7 o'clock, which is typically the case, was to take a drive over to witness what the photos revealed. And of course, it was dark, it was smeary, etc. And a few hours later, as I engaged the business day, I actually took a physical walk down to the location and saw what's being demonstrated in the pictorials on the projections before you at this particular point in time. So of course, we do have an obligation to correct the environment to the extent that we possibly can. in addition to some of the comments that Mayor Carney offered regarding rulemaking applications, etc., we do have an obligation to make our environment as safe and comfortable as we possibly can. So a lot of concerns did come to my attention with respect to liability, with respect to safety, and all other aspects to get to that place. Not to mention the current expectation regarding compliance, thus reminding me of the prospect of a sandblasting application. And I've spoken to just about all of you individually about that, in addition to some other observations in my individual calls to you all, which began earlier this morning as soon as I was able to facilitate those. Interestingly enough, that did include an engagement with leadership of the District 4 office of the Florida Department of Transportation relative to why we are where we are. Because again, much of this was in response to an unexpected, unanticipated event that took place earlier this morning. Chief Hunter, I wish to compliment you, sir, for your being awake at 2:39 in the a.m., of which I was able to get up a couple hours thereafter because you sent the text notification advising of this surprising outcome, because none of us were prepared, none of us were given the opportunity to respond accordingly. We were all hit with this, ladies and gentlemen, so we had a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different opportunities to be responsive, and quite frankly, it was a challenging proposition. So, doing what I can to offer steady hand guidance relative to leadership and guidance, we were able to notify FDOT about whatever opportunities we could make available to remedy the situation because of the aforementioned concerns. The outcome of that, ladies and gentlemen, shortly before this very meeting began, was my being directly contacted via telephone call to the office by a representative from Florida Department of Transportation District 4 headquarters, the Commissioner's Office of Steve Braun, regarding their rulemaking application, so to speak, and that they're asking about what opportunities can be made available for the city of Delray Beach to respond and achieve corrective action and to offer some sense of compliance. And they, in the process of that, informed me that they recognized the poor job that was executed overnight in terms of the paint smearing, and that did not work out very well. I'm sorry, ma'am?
How diplomatic of them.
Well, if I may please continue.
Well, there's a visual test too, so I mean, I'm just.
Yeah. So this agent, again, shortly before the meeting began, offered that acknowledgement, and they expressed a commitment to coming back to Delray Beach to take under consideration other applications, including the possibility of them performing sandblasting or hydroblasting as other alternatives to help the city of Delray Beach be in position to achieve a sense of compliance. So I did not make any commitments, recognizing that this meeting would begin a few minutes or so later. However, I thought it was appropriate that I share that background information because I was just hit with it late this afternoon. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, if the city of Delray Beach doesn't respond accordingly, they see fit to once again visit our community, and they emphasize it would be quicker than we would be able to respond. The city of Delray Beach has the bandwidth and capacity to proceed as early as Thursday. They have an interest and a commitment, a steadfast, resolute interest to do so literally within the next day, possibly overnight, possibly tomorrow, to be determined in that regard, because they feel extremely confident and steadfast in their position. And much of that was talked about you, Mayor Carney, in terms of why they are where they are. So this is extremely immediate, and I don't wish to use the term our back is against the wall, so to speak, but in many respects it is. Because if the city of Delray Beach does not do what it possibly can quickly, they've offered a commitment to do so based on the legal abilities they feel that they have. So again, this was provided to me shortly before the meeting began, after every single conversation, most recent conversations I've had with each of you all, and thus it's important to have that information and background as you all consider guidance and direction accordingly. So to do whatever we possibly can to strike a balance in that regard, that's up for discussion. Nevertheless, that is what the city of Delray Beach is facing. The office of the city manager likewise has a capacity or a commitment to do what we can to strike a balance, recognizing the realities of where FDOT is coming from and why they are where they are. Nevertheless, I appreciate direction with that in mind. Mr. Mayor, I yield at this time, but I will be back again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the update, but I will say, because it kind of reiterates what I was saying, but everyone said, well, we haven't had to worry about funding before, we've never had to worry about this kind of stuff before. So to suggest that the state isn't going to come through with their threat of withholding money when they are prepared to send in crews overnight to do something, and have reiterated to our city manager that either you do it or we're going to do it, I strongly feel that, we were told it was an informal hearing. We had the informal hearing. We exhausted that remedy. Now we're trying to move it up a bit. We weren't afforded that to begin with, and I think we should be really. I think that we really should be focusing on what Plan B is, and try to achieve something meaningful in that regard. Because I don't know that. I just think that it is going to happen, and so if it's going to happen, then we need to make the best out of the situation, because I believe the state is serious. I also said I believe that they had the rulemaking capability to do it. We can have another lawsuit and spend the money to come up to the same result, but I think at some point, although it's not a business, you have to make a decision whether or not it's economically wise to pursue a lawsuit that you can't win when you have at the possibility you have a viable alternative, which is the Plan B, to let's figure out what we can do. That's where I am, and we can disagree, and that's fine. I mean, and if the Palm Beach Human Rights Council wants to, as other private organizations have done, is to file suit in the state, questioning whether or not the Florida DOT has the right to do this, or whether or not the street art should be somehow, if certain criteria are met, where safety being among them and other kinds of things are among them, to allow this sort of thing in Florida, I'd be the first to comply. But all I'm saying is that's not what we have in front of us now. We have in front of us now, do we want to take on the state, or do we want to figure out what Plan B is? And I'd rather go with Plan B, because I think it's a win-win for everybody. So
can I ask, Mayor, why do you think Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach have chosen this route? These aren't small cities with a bunch of yokels elected to them. They're serious, sophisticated individuals on these commissions. So they must think there's a reason to at least have a fair chance here, right? With this petition.
Then I can say, why didn't Key West do it, or why didn't these? I mean, we can always. I don't try to predict. I don't even try to predict what this commission does, let alone what the Fort Lauderdale or Miami Commission does, or Miami Beach Commission does. So
anyone placing bets on this commission is probably losing a lot of money.
I am placing a bet on this commission that we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to make sure that we solve this problem by making sure that we can address it via the Plan B, to try to find some meaningful way to address this without taking on the state and without risking state funds against a state that's already said to us, we're going to do what we want to anyway.
Taking on the state is, I think, kind of like, are we taking on the state when we're simply just asking for a hearing that state law provides to us?
And I encourage you.
I say we're working within the actual state.
We were not
laws.
afforded. We were afforded the opportunity for an informal hearing.
We were not given a hearing.
We were afforded the opportunity to have an informal.
And we motioned to dismiss the hearing officer.
Right, and we were denied.
Right. So what? So we're just going to give up and say, well, we did our best. We never got a hearing.
At some point, your legal process is exhausted. You can keep saying.
I don't think it's exhausted yet.
Well, okay, well, that's an opinion.
We have another process that we can still do to actually get an evidence-based hearing. We haven't had that yet.
You can have the process in
front of a hearing officer, not a DOT engineer. We never had a hearing in front of an actual judge or hearing officer. But we never had that. That's not a hearing.
Fine. We're going to agree or disagree on this point. So my view is that let's focus on trying to.
We can't run our city government like we're hostages. We were elected to protect this city government.
I was elected.
It's our job to do that.
But the portion of the city government is making sure that your taxpayers are not unduly taxed or incur expenditures for things that they
And
just
that's a
can't wait.
reach. We don't know that any of that's going to happen. What we do know is going to happen is that we're sending a message by allowing this to occur in our city and then rolling over.
Well, I think they've sent the message themselves by coming in and doing it, not even giving us 12 hours. So anyway, so you've had your point. Anybody want any additional?
You know, I just want, I mean, I don't see it as rolling over. I mean, if we have to determine whether we have exhausted our legal process. Have we exhausted it? And then also, as Mr. Moore said, we did give clear and definitive direction that once we did this, that we were going to comply with the order. However, my concern is safety, number one, and compliance. We talked about some alternative artwork in other places in the city if this did not work. So, you know, I would like to support that. Giving up home rule, you know, I would like to fight to the end. However, it's a hard decision, and Mr. Moore he's prepared with the direction that we gave at our last meeting to comply with the removal. We can't leave it like that, so we do have to make some decision. It can't be left like that.
And if I may add, ladies and gentlemen, just as a reminder, your September 15th regular meeting, your next meeting taking place 6 days from today. Item 7A does provide an opportunity for commission to chime in, offer guidance and direction relative to other gestures of support in lieu of the current state of affairs. So that is being made available as urgently, as quickly as it possibly can. And again, we're talking about the next 1 to 2 days of getting matters squared away. We have some capability, some bandwidth, and of course from there, perhaps the commission can think about any other striking of the balance opportunities above in that regard. My principal concern at this juncture is what happens Tuesday night, between Tuesday night and beginning Thursday morning, whether it's the city of Delray Beach, whether it is the state of Florida dictating the outcome of the work that remains ahead with regards to this location.
Well, I think there's a lot of decisions that are kind of sitting here, and one of the things you and I talked about today, Mr. Moore, we cannot leave that the way that is. That's super duper dangerous. We're going to have an accident there, and somebody's going to get hurt. We're all neighbors. We don't need that. So I don't know whether we want the state to come in and fix that, or if we should fix that ourselves. But that needs to, at a minimum, be put back to the way it was, you know, and be a healthy intersection for us in Delray. So.
And if that happens, the state will still come back in here and attempt to remove it.
But if we go in Thursday night, I guess it was what you said, and we clean it, it's going to clean all the paint, right?
That would be.
You're talking about sandblasting it.
Yeah.
That would begin before Thursday evening. That would begin Thursday morning per direction being made available. And again, the call that I experienced a few minutes prior to this, a little while before this meeting began, that was very concerning because even our efforts wouldn't be fast enough according to them. So technically I would still have to broker some informal pact, if you will, so that we can have the opportunity to manage the environment, manage the destiny. And again, I felt comfortable, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to emphasize, for crying out loud, the direction that was provided August 19th. I have to speak openly about that. I have to acknowledge and recognize that because a lot of hard work, time, energy, and resources were invested to respond and proceed accordingly.
Right.
And as city manager, I have to be concerned aggregately across the board in every realm.
Absolutely.
And that was the basis of the presentation during the August 19th meeting. I do my absolute best to support each and every last one of you, every resident of Delray Beach, every stakeholder. However, it's an awesome responsibility to take it all under consideration. I do my absolute best, and I wish to God every day that that is valued and appreciated somehow. It is not easy. However,
Terrence, no
a
one's
lot of
questioning
good work was struck, a lot of balances was struck, and this is, I have a lot of experience, ladies and gentlemen, leading cities. I think about that. I borrow from my toolbox every day to think about which approach to take, whatever the case may be. This is unique. This is unique. Thus, the opportunity to to appreciate any feedback and guidance that all of us can collectively make ourselves available to achieve. Because this is unprecedented for any and every other city. And so when stakeholders, concerned residents, individuals speak to the commission in this regard, please understand, it's not that straightforward. Most matters is based on the experiences, intelligence, leadership, guidance, and abilities we have in this regard. But in this particular juncture, it is not. It is not. So I'm really glad that, in a way, I'm really glad that the FDOT folks did reach out to me late this afternoon so that I can provide that background information. That's really the first time, ladies and gentlemen, all of this, that we received some definitive information that may be helpful relative to the decision-making process. A la, we do what we can to manage the environment based on direction offered August 19th, or they be allowed to come back in, because regardless of what the legal position may or may not be, they're following their path, not necessarily a rule book that we may think is to be followed, but they are where they are. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, my involvement, guidance, direction to this effect was based on structure and principle, beginning with August 19th, 4 days after receiving the August 15th notification letter.
Terrence,
When Mr. Moore and I met last week or so to discuss the agenda coming up for next week, and Mr. Moore had talked about the importance of putting on the agenda what I'm calling Plan B, but putting on the agenda the recognition that we are going to try to do something to address not being able to have this here in a fashion where, because I'm confident we have the Nick Coppola is former president of Compass. We have Rand Hock here, who's the Palm Beach Human Rights Council. I'm confident that we can come up with some meaningful alternative that is not going to upset the Florida Department of Transportation, which we can pretend that they will or they won't, but they're going to render this moot no matter what we do here. So rather than focus on how we can do battle in that front, the prudent course is to figure out what we can do on this front so we can protect the source of funds on this front, but still achieve the same result over here. It may not be an interchange, but it could be something just as meaningful. And without exploring what we can do, I think is disingenuous to the process, because I'm weighing. It's very easy. It's very easy to say, well, we should do this, and we should fight. Okay, great. But if it costs people money, and I have an alternative over here that I could do, I'd rather not cost people money and take care of my alternative. So when we discussed the agenda, it was very important that we were going to put that on the agenda, and which you did, and it was your suggestion to do that, and I immediately said, great, let's do that. So I think that's where we should be trying to focus on, is what we can do to try to have Plan B, because we're just not going to win this other one. And I don't want to blow it for everybody, because we keep trying to fight over here when I think I can have a win over here.
So I just want to briefly respond to the city manager's comments, because you take a lot of flack up here, Terrence.
Yes, sir.
You have the hardest job at this city.
Yes, sir.
I think you are often unfairly scapegoated and maligned and blamed for things that are not your fault. I think it happens constantly up here. And it's unfortunate. And none of this situation is an indictment on you and your ability to do your job. I want to make that very clear.
I appreciate it.
You have been doing your job throughout this process.
Yes, sir.
But I've made this point before, though. Your job is different than our job.
Yes, sir.
We are elected.
Yes, sir.
To be representatives of these people out here. Your job is to protect this city.
Yes,
and
sir.
to run and manage this city as CEO. And I think you do a phenomenal job at that.
Thank you.
So, reflecting on what our job is, and Mayor, I respect all your commentary, and I appreciate the effort to pivot to Plan B, and I think we should be discussing what Plan B looks like, because inevitably we're probably going to have to go there, right? But to me, that's still a separate conversation. That's not the conversation that we need to have right now. We can have that conversation after we've actually had the thing that we first asked for, which was an actual hearing. What occurred was not a hearing. When we asked to disqualify the person who presided over the hearing, we've already acknowledged legally we did not have a hearing. So let's get a goddamn hearing. We have 2 other cities that are giving us cover right now. That we're not going against Florida. We're simply asking for our legal right to due process that is afforded to us. And if we're not fighting for what our rights are as a city, are we representing our residents? Are we doing what we're elected to do? We keep speaking in terms of money. What about the rights of our residents? If we're not fighting for those, they can install anyone to simply roll over and exert the will of the state in our city. And we're talking about not upsetting the DOT. You mean the DOT that came in and committed this malicious act on our streets last night? That clearly didn't care about safety.
No, did not.
They clearly didn't come to fix a problem. They came to maim something that means something to our community. They came to send a political message. And what's our message back gonna be? You win. We're just whatever you need. We'll go figure out another place to put our symbol until they decide that we can't have that one either.
I'm just saying you correctly point out that there have been 2 cities that are undertaking this. There have been 22 that aren't, for a reason, with the same analysis of what it's going to cost and what it may cost by pursuing something. And all I keep saying is that I don't just represent the people that are sitting here. I represent the people that aren't sitting here, and I think that they have a voice too. And one of those voices is you take the best route to try to achieve the result for the greatest number of people. And if the greatest number of people will be benefited by not depriving them of revenue sources and being able to do something over here, that is the prudent way to do it. And I can't. I mean, I've been involved in too many things as a lawyer, trying to negotiate, trying to get the best outcome. And, sometimes you go into a deal and one side leaves the deal and they feel that they won, which means the other feel that they lost. I always was trained that if the people leave, either and both sides like it or both sides hate it, it's probably fair to both sides. So this is going to be unpleasant for everybody. Because there are going to be people saying we shouldn't have this monument at all in Delray. We shouldn't have any kind of, not monument, but whatever kind of demonstration, whatever vehicle we use to try to replicate the theme of the importance of the symbol.
Well, I'm not interested in compromising with those people. We're talking about compromise. I'm not giving a platform to the people who don't want to have any symbols for LGBTQ.
But you yourself said you represent all people. Everyone has a voice. So I'm trying to satisfy
right,
all
but not all opinions should be respected.
Correct.
Frankly.
And there will be, and when we try to do Plan B, there are going to be people that are opposed to it. I will not be one of them. Is what I'm saying. So
okay,
all I'm trying to do is make it a win-win, and that's the way I think. I
don't see this as a win-win. I see this as a surrender.
They've already said they're going to come in and do it anyway. So what do we? I'm trying to be in control.
I want a
of our
chance
own
to
destiny.
present our case. We have not had that.
We were afforded the opportunity for an informal hearing. That's what the letter said. And by the way,
by state law, we are afforded an opportunity to have a real hearing, though.
Can I ask
and
you a
we
question?
gave them the benefit of the doubt that they would give us some semblance of an actual hearing, which they did not.
Can I ask a question? Are we talking about 2 different things here? Repairing this and going forward with coming
They
in
are 2 separate things, yes.
Compliance with this and then joining the law. Aren't those 2 separate things?
I guess what they're saying is we would join the lawsuit, which would toll the activities of the FDOT with respect to the interchange, and essentially
we would get a stay of execution, so to speak.
We would have a stay of execution.
But we still have to repair this. We can't.
We
wait.
still have to do something right away. Whether it's sandblasting it or hydroblasting it, we have to do something to give the city manager direction.
What we'll be fighting for is home rule, as opposed to we have to fix this now. So
correct.
To me, I'm looking at 2 different things.
It is 2 separate things.
Okay.
What I'm recommending, and I will say what I'm recommending, is that we follow the line of thought that was provided by the FDOT to the city manager, which would be to eliminate this interchange,
I'm agreeing.
and at the same time pursue what I think, what I keep calling Plan B, which is the purpose of the meeting next week, next Monday.
Monday.
Time flies when you have a good time. Next Monday to think about what kind of meaningful, what something meaningful that we can do to recognize the importance of the symbol or the art or whatever, but get the FDOT off our backs, because all we're going to be doing is delaying the FDOT from being on our backs and potentially compromising, which I don't think is a potential. I think that this governor is serious. The funding sources, because October 1 is coming upon us. That's the beginning of the budget, and as the arts people learned last year, with a stroke of a pen, the $100,000 that was coming to the city of Delray evaporated.
So,
And that was against.
if that's the concern,
he's
Mayor,
not going to do it. He did it.
why did we agree to exhaust our administrative options in the first
We
place?
agreed to follow the procedure set forth in the letter, which was to ask for, and we have received, an informal hearing. We tried to
But we
elevate it,
motioned to disqualify that hearing officer for a reason. So
which was
so
denied.
based on that,
which was denied.
but based on that, we never got a hearing, right?
but-
we're agreeing that that was not what they promised. So why
they
would we
promised
not
it-
push to get some version of that?
again-
That's what we all agreed to up
again,
here.
they
To me,
artic-
this is just what we originally agreed to.
I don't want to get into a
Right.
legal argument here, but the point is we were afforded the opportunity for an informal hearing.
Which
the
we
fact
weren't
that you
given.
didn't like, or one doesn't like, or people do not like the.
Our legal counsel didn't like it. It wasn't just us saying, "Well, we don't like it."
I'm not.
It wasn't.
I am not. I
we
am
filed
not
a
even
motion.
remotely suggesting that there's not a heavy-handedness here that I don't like. But what I'm trying
So
to
why
do.
would we agree to something, acknowledge that we
I'm-
didn't get it, and then say we're done? That's not even consistent with what we initially decided to do.
I'm trying to offer a solution here to benefit everybody. You don't have to support it.
I'm just trying to continue down the path that we
I think
started
I think that would be.
to show our residents that we are committed to seeing this through before we have to look at Plan B.
Well,
I think it's premature to pivot to Plan B.
The governor's already talking about us.
He's been talking about it.
Right, and look what
So
they're
how?
doing.
Yeah, and we're going to accept that and allow it.
Well,
This is our job, is to push back against things like
so when the
this.
60 million is for somehow delayed or denied or whatever.
You're assuming that's going to happen. You're assuming that's going to happen.
That's an assumption.
Well,
It's
I
an
think
assumption.
I think that this governor has certainly demonstrated that when he makes a.
So we're assuming our lawsuit won't prevail. We're assuming a lot of different things here. But what we know is that we never got the thing that we asked for, which was a fair
Again,
hearing.
we asked for the hearing that was afforded to us in the letter.
And
which was an
again,
informal-
we motioned to disqualify
we're
that
gonna go
hearing
back and
officer.
forth.
We didn't
We're
get
gonna
it.
go back and forth on this. I've
We
read the
are.
letter.
We're saying the same things over and over again.
So what?
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
Lynn, last night, did other municipalities get targeted the way we did did every city that was on the list?
I believe
End up
Key
with the
West,
same
Fort
result?
Lauderdale hasn't had their hearing yet. I think their hearing is next week. I believe Key West received the same treatment from FDOT.
Okay.
Mayor, can I just
Theirs
clear
look
up
better,
something
though.
Can I
for
just,
Commissioner-
before you
Oh,
jump in, just
sure.
a couple more little things. I think Angela is right. There are a couple of issues that are standing here. Number one, in the interest of safety of our residents, we have to come in, Mr. Moore, and clean that. Whether we do it or whether FDOT does it, we need a commitment to get that fixed.
So can I just
and by fixed, I
clarify?
mean clean, so that it's safe.
I think we need to
for
clarify one
pedestrians
thing,
and
though.
drivers.
FDOT's not coming in to clean it. They're coming in to sandblast it and
Correct.
take off all the paint. So
Correct.
it's going to look like
I
asphalt
know.
when they're done.
Yeah.
So I just want to be very clear
fair.
because,
It's either us or them.
Yeah.
well, there's a third option, and if we decided to go the route where we're going to challenge the petition, we would seek a stay that would allow us to maintain it, and whether we would need to seek the court's assistance to clean that so that it doesn't stay like that. So I think we need to be clear. So the mayor's suggestion is that we've exhausted all of our administrative remedies, and for Commissioner Burns, just for your understanding, the petition that was filed that we went to Orlando for last week, technically we have exhausted our administrative remedies. We went to the hearing. Whether or not we can sit here and argue whether or not it was fair or not, do I think that there was due process? No, I think everyone can pretty much agree to that. But that's the situation that we were handed, and that's what everyone else is receiving. Right or wrong, that's what happened. That hearing is essentially over. We received a final order that, if you look at the final order, it actually directed us to come into compliance. So it did not direct FDOT to take that action, and certainly
That
not.
was my point earlier.
And certainly not in less than 12 hours, right? So the mayor's suggestion is, we're done. We've exhausted our administrative remedies. We're going to direct the city manager to it's going to be gone. So the Pride intersection will be gone. There will be asphalt there. So, and then we will discuss Plan B at Monday's meeting. Option 2 is to pursue either an appeal, which would be contesting the final order that I sent you last night. That essentially would also give us a stay. And again, we would seek permission from the court to clean this so that it doesn't look like this, pending final resolution of that action. And then the third option is to join Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale, contesting the rulemaking authority. Now, I don't know if that's neither one of these is going to be evidentiary, right? Contesting rulemaking is essentially just saying you didn't follow the essential requirements of the law. An appeal is saying we weren't given the essential requirements of the law, and this is why we deserve a do-over. So both of those, the appeal, we go back and we do it again. And either they'll say you get a formal hearing and you do it again with FDOT, same process, and they'll make a decision. Or the petition, that result will be that the memo 25-01 is not valid. It wasn't properly enacted pursuant to the rulemaking statute 120.54. And then either FDOT would be given an opportunity to follow the process and enter into rulemaking, or they would just let it go. So those are, it's hard because I don't have a PowerPoint to show you, but those are really the three options right now. Either we've exhausted our administrative remedies, we pursue an appeal, or we follow Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach and join in their petition and ask for another hearing. The final two would result in a stay. The first one would be pursuing what Mr. Moore suggested with sandblasting, and it'll be gone Friday morning when everybody wakes up. It's going to be gone, but then we're going to pursue the other options that staff has come up with.
And with the stay option, we could potentially hydroblast this and revive/preserve the intersection while we go through the process.
I would imagine that a court would allow us to do that, yes.
So that's the option I'm going to pitch. I'm not pitching the appeal because it's a lengthier process and it's a more aggressive move. The petition is simply, I think, less aggressive. It allows us to partner with two other cities and finish this right. We can uncover the intersection and request a stay. Then at least, in my opinion, we are seeing this action through. That if I don't think we're doing motions, right? Do we motions in an emergency special meeting?
Oh no, there needs to be a motion.
Okay, then I move to.
Well,
Can I make a motion?
I was going to say, wait, I was just going to say one thing. I mean,
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm going to go ahead and make. Well, my point is, you're really taking off the table Plan B because I'm going to pursue.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to pursue one or the other. So.
Then you just created that ultimatum out of thin air.
No,
we can obviously pivot to Plan B if
right
this.
Right now, if you're
your call, you'll be outvoted on that. Then.
But if we, you misunderstood what I'm trying to say. If we do this and we lose funds, then
it's a lot of ifs, yeah.
Then I mean, you're great, but
Okay.
we lose funds.
It's a lot of things. I could go down a whole line of ifs if we bend over for this.
Look, I just think that the prudent. We're not a business.
We've gone through this. Sir, we have our points of view. I respect yours, and
No,
I'm sure you
I
respect
respect-
mine.
I mean, I do.
And
I mean, I
I'm going to make my motion, and then we'll
Okay.
just see how it shakes out, right?
Okay, sure.
So
Before you make your,
I'm sorry.
Can
Go
I ask
ahead.
just a clarifying question to Lynn? So if Rob makes his motion, fine. Is there an option for us to still just file the appeal before we do that? Or are we in a position today where, like, we have to make that sort of final call?
So we have 30 days to file an appeal, so we're still within the appellate window. Ideally, the mayor's correct. When a court issues an order, you're given an opportunity to come into compliance, and typically it would be the same window for your appeal, so that you don't have to worry about some type of enforcement action occurring that would basically render moot your appeal. Because if they come in and take care of things in the middle of the night again, then we have a situation where what are we appealing? Because unless we're going to ask the court to make them put it back in. And I don't, so from that standpoint, I think if you're going to decide to appeal, or if you're going to do the petition, I would need to give that direction to the lawyers this evening, so that things get moving.
I think it's one of the reasons we had the meeting tonight was so we could move quickly on this.
So we don't have time to this, the petition, joining the petition. Is that costly? Is that?
Litigation's costly.
It's a lawsuit.
It's an actual lawsuit, but
it's a lawsuit.
it's a
It's a lot of
different
money.
venue than an actual courtroom. It's going to be similar to what Terrence and I attended on last week, except it's an administrative law judge. So they are typically informal. I would almost describe it as an arbitration or a mediation where both parties sit on each side. You have somebody in the middle, and then that person is a judge. So they're going to decide the facts. They're going to decide the evidence, the law. They're going to apply it, and they're going to render an order. That petition, the reason why that is another avenue that I think the vice mayor is suggesting is because that would also stay enforcement of the order that you received last night. So those are the two different avenues where you could essentially attack the order that was issued by FDOT.
But it's still litigation.
Oh, it's definitely litigation. Yes.
So either way, one it may be more expeditious, but it's still litigation.
Correct.
The other is longer. It's still litigation.
An appeal will be prolonged,
Ultimately, you get to the same spot, is to appear in front of some, and
To actually have it in some sort of court.
I'm going to go back to saying, I'm not going to say, but we said we would exhaust the remedies. We did. It was an informal hearing. That's what the letter said we were entitled to. We went forward. We didn't prevail. And then we said if we didn't prevail, we were going to come into compliance to preserve at least that, hopefully the funding people without, as I said, I'm not suggesting even remotely it's not heavy-handed, and I'm not suggesting that if a private group wants to sue the state or to do certain things to allow these types of interchanges and art to be allowed in cities, I'll be the first to sign.
But we're the victim.
Well, victims, yeah, I agreed.
We're
But
the
I'm just
victim
saying,
here.
but I don't want all the taxpayers of Delray Beach to fund that effort, and that's where I am. Where I can have it when I have a plan B in place, or will have in place, hopefully Monday, as to what we're going to do.
Yeah,
So-
we talked about that. So, and we did give the direction. All right.
So well,
Crazy.
I will not support that motion because I'm going to vote no because
Well, I haven't made it yet. How do you know?
I know where you're. Geez,
Man, talk about a predetermined decision.
Well,
All of the protocols.
I feel like I'm in an FDOT hearing right now. Too soon.
So it's very good. It's not. I'm not an FDOT
Man.
administrative judge here, so that's the good news.
Maybe they're hiring.
I understand there's some availabilities there too. So there you go. So anyway, but go ahead, make your motion. I'm sorry.
All right. So the final point I'll make before I make my motion, I'll make it very quickly, is all I want is our day in court. I don't feel that we've had that, and I can't look at this and feel like I'm really working on behalf of the residents without asking for a day in court whenever they come in and do something like this. This is extremely disrespectful, and it's illegal. They didn't have a work permit. They didn't come through our city to get a permit. They came in the middle of the night whenever we were still in the middle of the process, frankly. So it's just, we can't let that kind of thing stand here. We have to stand for something in this city. So the motion I will make is I think the less aggressive, the less costly option that still keeps us in this to see it through, which is I move that we join Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach to join the petition effort to the DOAH. And I also move that we, for now, get a stay of enforcement, which is apparently tied to that process, and see if we can simply use hydro pressure wash or whatever for the intersection to clean it up and make it viable, rather than going immediately to sandblasting it. So that is my motion, if that's not too meandering.
I need a second. We need a second.
I don't see a second. All right, so let's go to that.
Wait a
So the
minute.
motion,
All right.
I'll,
Well,
I'll
if you-
second the motion.
okay, for discussion?
So we have a motion and a second. It's still, as you rightly point out, a day in court, and you are going to spend a lot of time in court. So I understand it's a litigation process. You are going against the state, no matter what you say, and so
I just want a fair day in court. That's all.
you
If we lose,
No matter
we'll
what
hold
co-
our heads high and we will comply and we will come up with other Plan B options. And I hope that the governor and Tallahassee don't look badly at us. We're all part of the same team, and we just want to have a fair day. If they prevail,
You're not
we will
going to
comply.
have, anyway. All right, so, call the roll.
Commissioner Marker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
No,
Motion passed.
so we're done,
May I?
if you wish.
So despite the direction, we still need to be concerned about Florida Department of Transportation's potential to still revisit the location and apply whatever they possibly can. So given the direction having been offered by the commission, we are not to proceed with any hydroblasting, sandblasting on our own, although we were prepared to do so this coming Thursday to remove.
I think
The
until
mural.
such time as you get a stay, I think you're obligated to follow the order. So part of the motion included,
Yeah.
petitioning for a stay, right? So I think that if you're granted the stay, but otherwise, I would not be in compliance with an order.
Of course. So that means we are still to proceed in this regard. It's important to talk this out. I mean, I don't mean
I'm
to
just
come
saying
across
that
as slow.
I would not run afoul of the order. So I think that if everything is correct and you're able to file to join in the petition and they grant you a stay, then that's your answer. I don't think they grant you a stay and they say that, because some courts don't grant stay. Some courts say you have to still comply with the order. I don't know. I don't know this
And how soon would we know
fortunately,
that?
I don't have to make that call.
So, Ms. Lynn, should we wait to see if we get the stay, and then if we do, then we could look into options in terms of hydroblasting the intersection to try and.
So according to our outside counsel, filing the petition, if we join it, if it's granted, it would effectively eliminate the enforceability of the order from yesterday.
So then we could immediately move to an option of cleaning up this intersection as soon as possible.
I would ask him to make that request,
Okay.
due to the safety concerns predominantly. I would have him make that request to the administrative law judge or even FDOT to see if they were amenable to the stay pending the final order.
Okay.
So hopefully they'll be amenable to this.
Given how much of the paint just came up overnight, I would think pressure washing it would probably be the most expedient way to deal with it.
Sounds like watercolor.
Yeah, like what do they paint it with? Like,
Not good
Lord.
quality Benjamin Moore paint.
Most
in
Yeah, right.
my house, I can tell you that right now.
Worst conditions last
It
night.
was underwater.
they had to know it wasn't gonna stay.
Before they painted it.
I don't
After
know.
they painted it, went underwater?
But
Before.
the only thing I'd suggest is, I'm not a road expert, but Missy Barletta is here, runs Public Works, and hi, Missy. Not to ask you, but for me, I brought you up today in some other meetings. If we needed somebody who's got the right knowledge about intersections and our city and knows about paint and everything, it's Missy. I just would like her to talk about what she thinks would need to be done. And again, I'm not coming at this from anything other than pure safety. Like I said, having gone down there today, it ain't good, guys. It's distracting as can be, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. Not on my watch.
So, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners.
Sorry, Missy, I pulled you out of the bath.
You did. I can say that they did this paint in the middle of the night on a very, very rainy day. Since that time, though, we've had an entire day for that paint to cure onto the intersection. We're not going to be able to go out there and just pressure clean it off. So, and the difference between sandblasting and hydroblasting is that hydroblasting is sandblasting with water that keeps the sand down. It's the same process.
Okay.
The only other thing that I would add is that it's not a quiet procedure. It would need to be done during the daytime. If DOT comes in here and tries to do it at night, we're going to have a lot of complaints from the residents who live near it, and even more from the Hilton Hotel that is right on that.
Yeah, we got a big hotel right on that corner.
I would
So
suggest you
for-
let the local people know and just, and doing a daytime, you know.
Right, which for these reasons, I mean, staff would prefer to keep control over the process.
I agree with that. And so, in your mind, sandblasting is the only viable option here at this point. In your
If we
professional-
go out there and do the sandblasting, we are removing all of the paint.
Correct.
It's not asphalt. You have to remember that this intersection is concrete pavers.
You're right.
So the paint is going to come off relatively easily, and it's going to look like it did before the Pride intersection was ever painted. So that's that. I wanted to make sure that you had that information just to manage expectations about what's going to happen after we go out and try to clean it up.
So there's no way to simply uncover or revive our existing intersection. It's leave it like this or remove all the paint.
In my opinion,
Correct.
at this time,
Right.
yes. We can continue to do some additional research and see if there's something else that we might be able to do. Maybe there's, maybe there's a way to polish some of it off without going all the way down, but I don't think so.
I mean, I would be, I'm on board with deferring to our public works director in terms of the most prudent option in terms of what you guys do there.
Okay, so what I think Missy's trying to say though is that you can't just take that black off, right?
Right.
So it's gonna, it almost is.
It looks like it's going, by itself.
Somebody just drove by and told me that it's pretty much off because of the rain, but it's not gonna look pristine, I guess is.
A couple more good days of rain like this, I think it'll do the job for us, save our
I mean,
I'm just
10,000.
concerned that it's
I was in West Palm Beach all day. Did it rain hard here today?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
well,
Would it make sense to?
then
For,
it probably.
That's why I called you about that. They called me on that flood. Where I forgot where it was, but
we fixed that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. They called me. Could I fix the flood? And I said, I'm not God, so I can't do that. But
would it make sense to, for now, while we're going through this process, just sandblast the stop bar crosswalk area? Because that's the area that's really the traffic control devices.
Correct. We can repair the traffic control device portions of the intersection by repainting the white lines and making sure that the intersection is safed up that way. And we'll take a look at what the paint looks like at the end of the day. I came straight here. I didn't drive by the intersection before.
Okay.
if there are no other questions for our director of
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Missy.
So, any other things come before the commission? We are